My name is Rinja. I'm part of Diversity Magazine team here. And it's a pleasure for us to have you. And we're really excited, of course, to hear more about your organization. So, would you introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and the organization activities you are currently engaged in, please?
Right. Thank you again. Thank you, Rindra. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on your platform for this interview this afternoon. My name is Dr. Olutoyin Oyelade. A lot of people call me Dr. Olu in the community. And so I represent Casa Foundation as the President CEO of Casa Foundation for International Development. Casa Foundation for International Development has been in operation since 2011. We started in 2011 based on a lot of engagement with the community and looking to solve community challenges as a bridge within the community to provide resources to solve and bridge some of the gaps that we observed in the community. I mean, of course, some of the issues you might be aware of those. And so we started in 2011 with 2 volunteers. So today we have 21 members of staff that work with us at Casa Foundation. And we're now in Vancouver, we're in Montreal, and we're in Ottawa. But the headquarters is in Toronto.
Oh, great. So it's really very interesting because it's since a long time. And let's say that everything is well settled now.
Okay.
Yeah, and could you then please tell us who is our, let's say, clients or beneficiaries of the organization?
Absolutely. So Casa Foundation was set up to promote women, youths, and entrepreneurs. Women, youths, and entrepreneurs. From the get-go, since 2011, this has been our focus to advance and to empower women, youths, and the entrepreneurs. And so when we talk about the entrepreneurs, we largely focus on startup entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. So those will be those ones that are at the conceptual stages of their businesses, ideation, just forming the concept itself. And so while we're a nonprofit, we focus on empowering them by providing resources, support to, for capacity building, training, mentorship, for sponsorship, partnerships. So a lot of people they come into us, they have a lot of ideas at that conceptual stage, but they do not have the resources. So the resource support is really important in terms of training. What do you need to actually create a business? So you have the idea in your head about how you're going to get started. How do you get clients? How do you get funding? And so on. So that's why Casa Foundation focuses on implementing and executing its projects using the 3 ethos of sponsorship, mentorship, and partnerships. Because when you get people to mentor you, you can learn from their lived and learned experiences. So people have been on the journey well ahead of you, but you learn from them through mentorship. And then you start in the business, you don't need to go into the pitfalls or experience the pitfalls in the journey that other people already experience. And that's why mentorship is really critical. So you don't fall into those situations. You bridge those gaps. And then we talk about sponsorship. So you have a great idea. You have perhaps an OD, like an overdraft from your bankers, but you need other people to sponsor you, to speak for you when you're not in the room. How do you get clients if people are not talking about your business? After all, you only have one mouth. So people help you by spreading the news faster than what you can do for yourself. And so that's the idea of sponsorship, so that people can spread the news for you. And then partnerships. You need people to partner with you, to be on your board, to hold your hand and lead you to your next project, your next funding opportunity. And so we work with those 3. And that's how we promote all our constituents.
Oh, it's very great, and it's always good to like helping in these opportunities. So you said that it's a non-profit organization. do you get do you receive any grants or fund from the government or somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely, we do. As a matter of fact, we relied on funding, contributions from like-minded groups.
Okay.
When we started from 2011 up until about 2019, we were by like-minded groups, community groups, people like ourselves, professionals who believed in what we were doing. And so they will always come together to support by way of donations and contributions. And so it wasn't until 2019 that we started getting funding from some of the universities. So institutional partners, people who took an interest, they came to our event, they came to understudied some of the projects that we were executing, and they started supporting us with donations and so on. And then we started getting some funding from the universities that supported us for our pitch programs, because we would invest in some of our women groups. They had their projects, and then we would put some seed investments in some of those projects. And so that's how some of the universities started contributing to that. Yeah, and then of course, I think by 20, just early, I think the early 2020s, we started getting some funding from our provincial government. And then of course, and then we grew and started getting some funding also from the federal government. And so we do have funding from the private sector and the public sector spread across the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal government.
So it really helping you to to make functioning of the activities and to make it let's say reliable for some
Yes,
period.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
And could you share us about, I know that you already tell us about details, what are you doing, but what is the main impact, positive impact that you feel that you bring to the community from those all activities? And if you have some statistical data that you can share with us?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say quickly that the major thrusts of our project would be those ones that focus on capacity building. So, for instance, we have the Women Entrepreneur Exchange Program. The Women Entrepreneur Exchange Program, we call it WEX. That's WEEX, Women
Mhm.
Entrepreneur Exchange Program. And so that's been in operation since 2016. And the idea is capacity building, providing structural foundation, so that women understand why it is important for you to build solid structures for your business. You need a board. You need a board of advisors. You can start from that solopreneurship role, running your business as a solopreneur, so that's where you start from. However, as you grow, you need a board of advisors. You need partners to work with, people to take you into the market. And so these are some of the things we teach them at the Women Entrepreneur Exchange. It's an 8-week program where women come to learn, and they learn from one another, different founders at different levels of business. And so they learn from themselves and know how to grow, how to learn how other people got their funding. And that's why we call it an exchange program. Because if I understand how you got your funding, I could absolutely replicate exactly what you're doing, or you could hold my hand and introduce me. And so it becomes a platform for exchange and collaboration. And so that's what Women Entrepreneur Exchange does. And then, of course, we have specific programs. Remember again that our goal is to serve youth, women, and entrepreneurs. So
Uh-huh.
that's the
Yeah.
program we have. We have the Women Inspire also. And the Women Inspire is an annual program where, as the name depicts, women that inspire other people into action, inspiring women are brought together on an annual basis. And so it's in its 6th edition. By 2025, we'll be having the 6th edition of Women Inspire, inspiring women from across vertical industry sector, from government to private, to public, and to the academia. They come together, share their ideas on how they got their job, how they grew in the market, and how they have become role models for other women to follow. And so a lot of young women are brought into the room at like mid-level senior managers and so on. Different cadre of professionals are brought into the room to listen to such women, whether you're starting your business or you have already established a business. There's always something
Mhm.
new to learn from inspiring women. And so that program is, it targets women in business looking to lead organizations or looking to start their own venture. And then, so those are women focused programs. Then we have youth focused programs like the Black Entrepreneurship Youth Initiative. So that's for Black youths. So you see that for the women program, it cuts across vertical
So,
industry sector. Exactly. But the youth program is specifically targeted at Black youths. And why so? Because the statistics indicates that, Black youths have a huge gap in terms of looking for role models to follow, particularly because there's a lot of incapacity when you talk about how they will do, encouraging them to go to school, to get an education, to become somebody in the community, in the society that can stand on their own, generate revenue for themselves, find a good career to follow, and then begin to actually teach other people and imbue confidence within the community and become contributors to the general society, the general economy at the end of the day. So we like to take them, from that age, young people, so that you begin to pour into them what you have learned in your own personal journey, and then get additional role models within the community to do the same for the Black youths. And so we have a center at one of the universities also where we do monthly sessions. So we now have a monthly session where people gather, whether virtually or in person, to learn from some of these role models that we've created in the community. So that's a Black youth program also that we have. And then we have the Black Advisory Hub, which is for all entrepreneurs. It's Black, BIPOC, Black generally, but for it's for all entrepreneurs. We call it an advisory hub. We created it actually. It's one of the projects funded by the federal government for us now. And so the federal government supports that program under the Black Entrepreneurship Program. But it's called the Black Advisory Hub situated in Toronto. But we now have a center at the University of British Columbia, that's in Vancouver. And then we have another center at ESG UQAM, that's the University of Quebec at Montreal. So that's in Montreal also. Those centers are there, really all created now, all funded by the federal government of Canada. And at the last count, I believe we've served about 8,500 people or founders already. Oh, yeah, at those centers because we now have them spread across the country. So we do
Nice.
have quite a number of people to be able to serve. And about 51 have received seed investments as we speak. They've been funded.
Okay,
Those organizations too. Yeah.
it's awesome, and it's like starting from the kids, from the youth till the like a mentoring. So, if I may
Yes.
ask, what will be the impact it might have if you have don't they don't if the funding is not anymore available?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that it will be the smartest thing to do for the funding to continue to be available. I mean, it's not just the right thing to do; it will be the smart thing to do. And I'm just echoing one or two of the statements that a few of the government people usually say to us too when they come into the room. It will be the right thing to do, really. Now, the funding itself that has been provided for under the Black Entrepreneurship Program is really been impactful. It's been very good in terms of is it adequate? The answer is no, but at least it's a great place to start. And so, from the impact that we have made as one organization out of many, you can imagine the types of gaps that will be created if such funding is now renewed or if they create such a, if it's withdrawn from the market or from the Black community. And so, definitely there'll be a huge gap and it will be very certainly difficult to fill. So, of course, the right thing to do will be to continue to renew such funding and make it available to the Black community. Keep in mind again that the Black community is coming from several years of having been denied such funding. They've never had access to this type of funding before 2021, like consistent, steady source of funding for the Black community. It just wasn't available. And so making it available since 2021 and then ensuring that it's renewed is the right thing to do, not just because gaps will be breached, but because there's a lot of deficit that the Black community itself needs to cover from several decades several decades of having been denied or having lost access to these types of funding. And so this is the right thing to do as far as we are concerned. Not only that, we're not just relying on the funding from the federal government. As a matter of fact, the Black community itself has now been quite innovative of itself to have come together into this ecosystem that was created and to now amplify the work that has been done so far. And what do I mean by that? The fact that the Black community itself is now able to pull together resources to begin to create its own funding. So we have several groups that are now coming together to create funding within the Black community to say, you give us this funding, you keep renewing it, but we're going to demonstrate to you our capacity to continue to create additional funding on the side and make that actually, a policy action within the Black ecosystem group of leaders, where we are able to take decisions to say, we're not just relying on the funding. The funding is important to us. You keep renewing it, but we will also continue to grow whatever you have provided to us as seed investment, because we see this as an investment and we can push it forward, and we're looking to do that. And that's the plan going forward.
Okay. I'm sure we will continue to have it, and because of your, let's say, good job.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. And there's a lot of advocacy, if I might add, a lot of advocacy. A lot of leaders have gone even to the, to the National Capital Region in recent times to actually, form lobby groups and advocate for the retention of such funding. So there's a lot of work being done. We on our part also will continue to push ahead, to make sure that the members of parliament and all the other government people involved are also aware of what we're doing and the need for these types of funding. Going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. As we have coming already at the end, so if you have some few minutes, some word in French, as our magazine is in bilingual, is it possible that you make some few story resume, let's say, in French?
I do not speak French. I
Okay.
didn't know you were. No, I do not speak French at all. But I just know that this is really important, and a lot of the constituents that we serve do understand this. We might be able to make this available because we do have a lot of francophone people with us also on our staff. And so, if you make this available to us, we might be able to convert this for you and have one of our people also do that for you and put it on your YouTube or platforms, depending on what you want. So I could do that. We could do that.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time. Then
thank you.